Hey guys, how y'all doing? So I'm joined here today by DM Blackwall of Blackwall Games. We're going to talk about Horde Wars Advanced, and the company they've set up. So I want to thank you again for coming on today and sitting down and talk to me. And of course, I want to thank you yet again for sending the physical copy of Horde Wars Advanced. I was not expecting anything like that to happen because the channel's brand new. It's only like a little over 2 months old, and a lot of people are starting to tune in, and I've been kind of blown away.
Well,
I keep
you're
saying
welcome.
that,
You're
but yeah,
welcome.
it's thank you.
I'm glad that worked out well, and I appreciate you helping us test shipping to Ireland. I actually enabled it today as we were
That's
recording,
awesome. That's great.
with a
Thanks.
disclaimer that they may have to pay some import fees.
Yeah, that sometimes happens. Damn you, Europe and UK. But yeah, so I just want to ask you, how did you actually come up with the idea of creating the game, like Horde Wars, where you're like playing some other game and you're like, I want to change this and change that, or was it more of a case of I don't like anything that's out there at the moment. I want to create my own thing.
Well, a little of both, but originally Nate and I were working on a sci-fi game together, and we came
Hmm.
down to the point where we could either make it a heavy modification of D&D 5th edition, or we could just make our own game. And we decided making our own game would be better. And during that production process, Nate was out of town for a couple weeks, and I wrote about half of the core rules for Horde Wars during that week as a mental exercise to think about how to create like character classes or careers in a different genre, because that was kind of, we were stumped in that
Yeah.
regard in the sci-fi game. And so Nate came back, he liked it, and so we made some monsters, some like goblins, and we play tested it with our playtest group. And yeah, it came back that they liked it even better than the sci-fi game that we were working on at the time. So we're like, all right, well, we'll produce this first. So we worked on getting Horde Wars done. We got basic ready for release. A couple pieces of artwork didn't make it in that book that we would have liked to, but those artists were not ready on time. It was like, well, guess those aren't going to be in this book. And then the Horde Wars Advanced is the complete game. Horde Wars Basic is the kind of starter set for the game, and then character levels 1 through 4 compared to character levels 1 through 12 in Advanced.
Yeah.
And Advanced has whole chapters of additional content and is roughly twice the length. But we are actually resuming work on that sci-fi game. We've got an artist actively working on it. I spent 7 or 8 hours today doing design work for it.
That's awesome. It's funny how you start off doing one thing and it goes one way completely. And you're like, oh well, let's throw some swords in here instead and see what happens.
Well, we've got some fans of the science fiction game.
Yeah.
Our playtest groups, as much as we can, are fairly broad. We had
Mhm.
over 100 playtesters for Horde Wars, for example, and I think probably over 150, maybe 200 by the time we released Advanced.
Yeah.
And then, so we've had a large number of people playtest the sci-fi game too. It's in its 3rd or 4th iteration now, but it's going to use the same core character creation rules and action economy and that kind of stuff, and much of the same game terminology as Horde Wars, so that you can move from one to the other very easily. It's also D12 based, and we picked that die mostly because we felt it was unloved, but also because it actually makes for more exciting and faster gameplay in a way that you cannot mimic easily with a 20-sided die.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that. Why did you end up deciding to use a D12 over like maybe a D6 or D20 or even a D100 system?
Yeah, so
Just the maths.
well, the math's part of it. So if you think about a D20, if a natural 20 is a critical hit, it's a 5% chance of success.
Yeah.
D100, if 100 is a critical hit, that's a 1% chance of success at getting a crit. On a D12, you're getting about an 8 and 2/3% chance. That's just enough that you like mentally will feel like it could happen. You'll actually
Okay.
players will plan around trying to make critical attacks happen. Which they just won't do it with a D20. The odds are just low enough. It doesn't feel organically correct. And we noticed that in playtesting, and we leaned into it. So we tried to make our weapons act like real weapons, where swords are good at cutting into people who aren't in good armor, or where we have weapons that can penetrate armor, or we have weapons that do extra damage if you crit. Like an axe can literally take your head off in real life. So if you get a critical hit with an axe, it should hit pretty hard, and so on. So for Horde Wars, we really focused around wanting the weapons to feel real and using the critical hits as a way to do it. And then the same is true for penalties, though. We use a mechanic called affliction, and that just means that if your character has a level of affliction, instead of rolling a 12-sided die, you roll a d10. If you have 2 levels of affliction, you roll a d8, and so on. And so instead of minusing from the dice, you are rolling a smaller die. And this means you cannot crit. You can't roll a natural 12 on a 10-sided die. It's not possible. But you could still hurt someone. You could succeed, but you'll actually feel weaker in an organic way in the game. And it'll play faster because you're not stopping to do subtraction.
Yeah, that's one thing I really like. I'm going to say this a lot. There's one thing, that's one thing, that's one thing. I'll be saying that a lot. But again, you talk about the weapons. The weapons, even the weapons that do the same damage, they're very different in how they actually act. You're going to have weapons that are going to knock someone down if they crit. You're going to have a weapon that's going to do double damage or well, not double damage. You're going to do that anyway. But
that crits twice as often. Or that gets even more damage on a crit.
Yes. And so I think one of the weapons, it crits on 11 instead of 12. So it's 11 and 12 instead of just 12.
Yes.
Yeah. Like stuff like that. It makes each weapon feel unique, even if they are similar amounts of damage output. Also, when you have the chart in here for improvised weapons, so you don't get the cool bonuses. But if for some reason you're trapped in a prison somewhere, you're trying to get out, and you grab like a candle holder, now you have a weapon that's going to do good damage, like say a blunt weapon of some sort. But you're not going to like knock someone down or give them like a dizzy stun or something like that.
Right. Right. And in fact, you'll break the weapon if you crit with it. You'll still hurt them, but you'll actually break the improvised weapon.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. Get stuck in their head as they slowly die.
We do get players, especially at low level, who will use torches as one of their weapons. Because it's doing a different kind of damage, fire, so it can get past a lot of armor and stuff. Even though it's not a lot of damage, it's still there. And then they're cheap. Right, they're not very expensive to purchase.
Would you still roll for the 2d6 burning damage, or just 1d6, or?
Well, the torch itself has a listed damage value. It's not like you automatically light on fire, unless of course.
I didn't actually notice that myself. So.
If you cover yourself in oil and then someone hits you with a torch, okay, you're probably on fire.
Someone had a great idea. I know, I'll slip through these cracks by oiling myself. And you decide someone poke with fire stick. But yeah, like the rules in this, the core rules in this are great. Like I think it's like 11 and a half, 12 pages of actual core rules. Everything's explained in plain basic English, easy to understand for brand new players who've never picked up any kind of RPG before. It's pretty intuitive as well. I do like the D12 system. We're talking beforehand. We went on. I actually managed to play one game. It's about 4 hours long. I done on Discord. It's about me like stumbling a little bit with some of my friends trying to figure out how to use things on the computer because I'm stupid. I'm a normal man. But so it was lots of fun. Like I said in the review, I talked about Crusaders a lot and merchants. It's because I had everyone set up as being merchants, and almost everyone chose Crusader plus something else. Like one of them was Crusader Knight, we had one person pick a pre-made character because they weren't available at the time to create. They chose Hal the halfling.
Yeah.
Another one was a Crusader priest, and we sort of followed a sort of the adventure that's in the book. I took just before that, as we were traveling down the road. We're traveling merchants. We're going off to they were going off to some place for rest, and then they come across the goblins from the starting adventure. I increased the number, and then they eventually the guys ended up killing a few, and they ran off out of fear. And they came across the village where this attack takes place, and everyone thinks that they're like brave adventurers. And they're like, no, we ran for it, but they don't tell them that. So yeah, that's kind of how I played. It was quite fun.
Yeah. Now I would encourage you, if you get the chance with your friends you were talking about in a few months, maybe give it a try and play out the starting adventure and see what they do, because it's written to help introduce game rules over the course of the adventure.
Yeah.
So you don't have to know quite as much all at once. It introduces things like cover, or it shows you an example of using timers in an adventure, as well as ambushes. And so, yeah, give that a shot. I think that'll help new players who've never played RPGs or who haven't played this RPG pick up the rules as you go.
Yeah.
But that's cool. I'm glad that you guys had fun playing online.
Yeah, it was fun. It was one of those sort of silly. It kind of went a bit silly, but it was lots of fun. Everyone enjoyed it. We had one brand new player who never played any RPG before. They were the first to die, but you know, I'm a hero. I'll save the day. Doink! They get killed after a while. But I also had I didn't actually tell you this before, but I had a few NPC characters around, so they did help out a bit, but I didn't make them do crazy stuff, you know. Yeah.
Now, did you catch how the NPCs work in the world? How NPCs basically have one career, and
yeah,
player
I thought that in the
characters
review
two?
as well, and that was from obviously reading it a couple of times. I read through the PDF as well, when I bought it. That I talked about it as well in the view.
Yeah, I know.
But
But
the idea of it is that this is what I think is the idea of it is they're more normal, everyday characters, and your characters are meant to be more heroic, a bit more epic.
yes, but there's another reason for it.
Okay.
It is so that even a brand new player who has never played the game before knows something about the game world.
Okay.
Like, if you play a knight and you just look at your character sheet, you're going to know what other knights can do baseline. If you play a red wizard, you're going to know the starting spells of other red wizards. Doesn't mean you know everything a wizard you encounter can do, but if he's the same type of wizard you are, you have some idea of his capabilities. And I think that's actually really nice, and I wish other games did that more. I certainly felt that way with playing D&D, and I think Nate did with Pathfinder as well, where it's just like, why do I need a entirely different progression or set of abilities for this random farmer than for my player character, when we've got otherwise like similar statistics maybe? Why is this a whole other progression? Or the man-at-arms versus the fighter? Or the warrior versus the fighter, depending on edition. Like, why not design it so that they're comparable in some way that's easy to reference? Anyway, that's just something I certainly would have preferred even 20 years ago when I was playing like 3.5.
Yeah.
25 years ago? I don't know. A while ago.
Make the number smaller, feels better. But just going to go over the species here, because we have human, we have halfling, we have dwarf, elf, and orc. Yeah, we did 5.
Sure.
Sorry, excuse me.
Well, and we've got the variants in the back, and that's organized that way on purpose.
Yeah, they're in the NPC section, I think it is, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And you have like the champion, like it has here, and some other things.
Oh, the capstones. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Was there any reason why you chose those specific races over, others you might have in other games? Like some might have like um tree people or something like that, or lizard
Well,
men as
so
player
give me
characters.
a couple examples. So tree people. How is why?
Yeah,
What would you want as a tree? Uh, some sunshine, maybe nice soil. Why are you
yeah,
adventuring?
yeah,
Um, the reptile guys, though, because we have them in the game world as monsters.
yeah. They're in the southern part. Isn't it near the starting adventure? You have a map, and just underneath there, that's where they are. I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, go ahead and jump to it.
Yeah,
It should be second page of the setting.
yeah. Or is it? There. I think
Yeah,
it's around here. That's where they are, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So they got a whole nation that they of where they are the dominant species and have
Yeah.
enslaved mostly halflings and some humans to serve them. Um, and that's so they're antagonists. So that's why we don't have players play them because they
Mm,
are a kind of existential threat in the game world, along with the dragons they
okay.
worship. Um,
Okay.
and that we did write a playable species for it. We wrote a number. We wrote a bunch of stuff that didn't make the cut in playtesting, including at least another half dozen careers and a number of other playable species. And there are reasons those weren't put in. And in
Mm,
most cases, it wasn't because they were not fun or like bad mechanically. It actually had a lot to do with how it functioned in the game world. So, for
yeah.
example, the reason the Black Wizard did not make the cut is because he was a necromancer. And he pretty much, whenever we play tested it, would get the entire party doing terrible things very quickly.
Okay.
And that is
So
not
yeah, so the whole
workable.
idea of the races and species was to make it have it make logical sense in the world that you created.
Yeah,
So you don't want lizard men going around in like Mercia, where they're probably kidnapping people from, like
right,
travelers or adventurers on the way.
right.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And the same is true for the careers. Like you
Mm,
could play a good assassin. It's possible. It is possible that you assassinate evil dictators or murderous generals or what have you.
yeah,
Uh, it isn't possible to play a necromancer who does not desecrate the dead.
yeah. It's it's
It's
it's in their
inherent.
nature.
Yeah. And so you're pretty much going to piss people off wherever you go.
Yeah, I suppose we
Uh,
could kind of like having a good vampire.
yeah, yeah.
It's kind of
Which
like
again, we wrote. We actually
yeah,
we wrote a essentially a half vampire, kind of like Blade, if you're familiar with that
oh
character.
yeah, badass
Uh,
blade.
and we've play tested it, and at some point we may offer that as just a free download through our
Yeah,
website or to our customers, just like we did with the skyships.
that'd be kind
Uh,
of cool. Yeah, I downloaded the skyships there as well. That was pretty cool. But I think
Glad to hear it.
that would be fun because then you could have in the game that someone's character gets turned in some
Yeah.
way or something like that, and then you just plug that in overlay as an overlay. That'd be kind of cool. But the careers are really cool. How do you just come to the idea of having the careers? Like you're going to pick two out of the 21 different careers that you have. Was there any particular
Um,
reason for that, or you just thought it'd
we
be interesting?
play testing. I mean, Nate even more than me, but Nate and I are familiar with a lot of other games.
Mm,
And when we were play testing, we came to the point where we were deciding: do we want to make these classes like you would do in something like D&D,
yeah,
or do we want to make these um, more focused than that? And what are the upsides and downsides? And basically, if we did a full class progression, it kind of locks you and doesn't give you as many interesting options as you go. Even the ones with archetypes, basically, you hit a certain level, you pick an archetype, and then you're kind of locked in unless you do multi-classing. That actually reduces the amount of options as a player character. And by doing it this way, where we have 21 careers, each with 2 capstones, which is 42 capstones, plus 5 more so 47 capstones from the species, you actually have multiple points of divergence of what is your character good at and how effective are they at that thing. You could, for example, play a Red Wizard Blade Master who, with a feature option, channels fire magic through his blade, teleports around the battlefield, and hurls fireballs at people while slashing them with his sword. Well, when he gets to higher level, he could go, okay, I want to be even better with a sword and level up in one of the Blade Master options. Maybe he wants to be good at disarming or hamstringing people. Maybe he wants to just be really good at attacking for damage. Or perhaps he just loves fire magic and teleportation and really leans into Red Wizard. Well, at character level 5, he can pick one of those. But then at character level 9, he can pick again. And so it gives you a high degree of customization, even if you happen to pick the exact same 2 careers as another player character, which is very unlikely. In our playtesting, the only times we saw it that weren't by design, there are occasionally players will scheme, was a married couple and twins.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's always that you have to keep an eye on those twins. They're always up to no good. One will act nice and innocent, the other will be like, hey. But in reality, the nice one's the bad guy.
But the upshot is you get hundreds and thousands of different combinations of characters that you can play. Plus, you've got the different features as well to give you more choices and the perks. But that gives you way more cool stuff to do in less space than if we just did this as a single class, just level up as this type system.
Yeah. Because I talked in the review as well, like, you could have all your characters essentially be the same class. As like, you could set up like a mercenary company and have everyone be a mercenary with something else. And they're all going to be very different, even the ones who pick the exact same 2 careers based on, like you said, the capstones and everything like that. So there is tons. At first glance, you're like, oh, there's like, you're going to have 21 plus, you choose 2 of them and you're going to have different combination. But then you're like, oh, well, like, you're going to have different capstones, which are going to make each class even more different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, you have a lot of options. You're not lacking of, but it doesn't feel like you're being overwhelmed at the same time.
Right.
Which I think it's very important, because some RPGs are super heavy with sometimes useless information and pointless information. Well, this has everything that you need to know. Simple, plain English. It's flavored well. It's laid out really well. You're not confused by anything. It's so well done.
Well, thanks, man. Now, there were two things that people ask or comment on occasionally relating to the writing style. The first is I'm an American, so I write in American English, and I was born in the 1980s, so I write in 1980s English. And that means the writing is generally clear, not to toot my own horn, but that's how I was taught to write by other people. A lot of times, you've done security work, I think, for a while. I did security work for a long time. I had to train younger guys how to write clear reports because they weren't getting taught it in school.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. But that's the reality we live in. And then the second thing, and this is for a game design reason, though that is in part as well. We use all of our monster abilities are written as though the game master is the monster. So when it says you, it means the monster. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that, it actually has to do with spacing on the page. We were able to put all of the monster abilities in the stat block in a way we could not do if we wrote it out. This dragon can do blah, 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 as compared to you do. So if you go to any of the monsters, just click on the monsters chapter. You're in the wrong chapter.
Yeah, I know, I'm stupid.
There you go. There's a monster. So look at any of the traits or whatever and give it a read.
Where am I?
Any of those.
Oh, yeah. Flanker.
Yeah,
You deal an extra die of damage against the creatures that are adjacent to you.
Yes.
You and your allies. Yeah.
And it is written that way because if we wrote it the other way, it would take 3 lines.
Yeah.
Well, for any of the bigger monsters, that would make it so it wouldn't even fit on a page.
Yeah. That's one thing I talked about as well. Again, that one thing, just one thing, I'm going to be saying that a lot, is, like the amount of space used for the monsters is tiny, but you're getting lots of information. You understand everything that's going on. Like I said before we got on this, I had my guy, the guys I was playing with fighting a lich, and all the spells they're on that one page. But if you go into like the archlich or any other creature that might have the same spells, they're still listed. So you don't have to go and searching around, go to another book, or flip through like several pages and be like, oh no, it's not here, it's over there, and go back and forth all the time. Instead of, or you might have to write it out yourself.
Right.
It just makes it so much easier, handier. It's written for DM.
Yeah.
You know,
it's written out
which is great.
And I think Nate and I, between us, I'd have to guess, we probably have something like 45 years DM experience between us.
Nice.
And that helps because we're used to that. You get a bunch of dragons. They're all named.
Yeah.
They have personal names and unique abilities. There's some stuff that's just generally true of all dragons, but each of these is meant to be a unique individual, and you really should research a dragon before you fight it. If you don't, you're probably going to die.
Yeah, because dragons are very big, monstrous creatures who are highly intelligent.
Yeah.
For anyone who does not know this, they're not dumb by any stretch of imagination.
Well, not dumb, but also there are different abilities that you might not know are coming if you don't research what this particular dragon is like. And we wrote it in such a way so that the game master should be able to mix and match and build their own dragons as well.
Yeah, so if players previously fought against one dragon or another creature, a similar creature will be very different.
For the dragons in particular,
dragon different. Yeah. Like if you're fighting like a dragon that's dealing with fire damage, it's going to be different to a dragon that's a shadow dragon or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're not by type. It's not like all the red scaled dragons breathe fire. We don't make subspecies like that. They're all just dragons, and then individually, this is what this one can do. This is what that one can do. And here's some of those dragon men, the Dracarans.
Yeah, the lizardy guys, Dracarans.
Yeah, and also the donkey stat block. Let's not forget that. If you scroll up, you'll see it. Keep going. There you go. Right on that page.
Oh, the rider.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's because they ride donkeys in combat. We're like, all right,
okay.
So he's going to need to know this stat block. Well,
nice.
The DM when he's running these.
Wow. Instead of camels, like you're like, they're sort of like maybe a Middle East Spanish sort of feel to them.
Yeah, well, actually, if you scroll up, look at the donkey and look what happens during the first round of combat. We had a little fun with it. So scroll down.
Oh my god!
See a trait, stubborn.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Your speed is 0 during the first round of combat.
Yep.
Okay.
Thing just won't move.
Like, come on. Dude, there's the bad guys. They're trying to take our slaves back. Yeah. But
so we tried to play with some tropes. So, for example, you'll notice if you are a fan of the Jurassic Park movie that our Tyrannosaurus Rex has an ability that is an homage to that.
Let me go down.
Which is basically just, and he's in Beasts if you're looking for that. And then under, I think,
dinosaurs. I think it's coming up now in a second.
There we go. So if you scroll up, look at how he does extra damage dice. Yep, there you go. Look at Prey Caesar.
Sorry. I had to sneeze. So what did you say at that time?
Look at Prey Caesar, that trait.
Prey Caesar. I think I'm blind.
Yeah, it's right there under traits on the T-Rex.
Oh,
See
there we
traits?
go.
There
Yeah.
you go.
You deal an extra point of damage against creatures that have moved since the end of your last turn. Okay.
Extra dot.
Okay, yeah. Don't
And
move.
so he punishes you for moving.
Okay. That's cool.
Uh,
Yeah, like I didn't look at every single creature, obviously,
of
during my
course.
review, but yeah,
I think there's
there's a
over
lot here
200.
because everything's very unique and very different.
I think there's over 200 of them. Some of them are like
Yeah,
unique proprietary things that we came up with.
yeah.
Other ones are real creatures or mythological creatures.
Mm.
Um, some of them are parodies of other people's work.
I love how you have a T-Rex and the next thing is a guard dog. They're like
Well,
they're similar. They both
maybe
bite.
maybe the Cerebus is similar.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah, it's pretty cool. And the way he's done skills as well, I like because it makes each skill they feel important. Like you have art and culture here, like for knowing things about the world you're in.
Oh, sure. Even
So
just picking what outfit would be fashionable in a given
yeah,
season or location.
like it's using the game world that you created and having the skills correlate to it. And yourself as a DM, you can, if it's something to do with like holidays or something like that, you can add in your own holidays and say, oh, you know about this holiday in this region of the world
Yeah.
where you're going to. So yeah, that's like other games. It would be maybe that would be a skill and no one would ever use it. There's no need to know about it, or be like, oh yeah, there's some festival going on today, and that's all. But yeah, it seems to have like actual impact on how things are done.
Oh, yeah.
And
Same
maybe
as
you can use that to learn more about the world and maybe gain information on something, and that
well,
can be used to play forward.
pick one of them and read it and let me know what you think.
Beltane, is that it? The summer
Beltane.
solstice. Beltane, the summer solstice. Beltane is a celebration of the first day of summer throughout the known world. Bonfires, horse races, picnics, jousting tournaments are a popular way to celebrate a successful planting season. The elves of Carwin also honor Beltane with Pega- Pegasus races through the sky.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of information, and you could pick or focus in on one thing as a player. If you know about this, maybe you want to watch the tournament, or you could potentially take place in a tournament.
Yeah.
And that's something I also said within my review is you can, like, when it comes to serving lords or trying to become a lord, I said that you could maybe have your players go off to um the king of the region and they're trying to become a lord. They've already proven themselves, but there's also other highly qualified people. Maybe they have to compete again against these people to gains like a
Sure.
lordship or a minor serving of the lord
And we've got
or king.
information on making a Pegasus right below this. So
Oh
if
yeah, there you
you
go.
we also have jousting tournament rules by the knights, which you
Hmm.
probably expect. The NPC knights have that rule block. But if you notice, all of those holidays have an A and a B theme where there is, hey, this is what's normal throughout the game world. And
Yeah,
then here is a difference in custom in this particular area.
yeah. Here it talks about the elves.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And so while you have like 5 or 6 holidays there, you're actually getting twice that many because you're getting the seasonal variant version as
Mm.
well.
And again, it's short, but it's very well detailed. Again, if you were doing it in another game, this would probably take up like each one of them would take up a page or two. And I've
Yeah,
seen stuff like that.
if you're ever
You don't.
bored, you should
Yeah.
look at our not now, but in general, if you're ever bored, look at our Earth Movers orb and compare that text, which is maybe 3 or 4 lines,
Mm.
to the D&D spell Move Earth. It is crazy the difference. And
The
our
5e
spell
version.
does the same thing, mind you.
Is this for the 5e version of it? Is it?
The 5e version is like 2 or 3 paragraphs
Okay.
to express the same idea and like general range and stuff that we're doing in like 3 lines. And that's, I mean, if you're paid by the word, I get why you might write that way, but it's really
that makes sense.
unpleasant for me as the player to have to go through this block of text
and then find out what information it's actually needed to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But and you also have like siege warfare and like going into other countries and lands and having big scale battles. Like you cover everything in this. Like I said, you're gonna be fighting. You go from fighting goblins on the farm to then trying to depose a king in another country. You know, so maybe your player characters might end up serving a minor lord, and then he gets called by his lord, who got called up by the king, and they're like, "We're going on a crusade."
Oh yeah, and like we have rules for how are crusades called in this world, because this is a world with a bunch of different religions, but there is a single dominant church in the human lands that extends into the elf and dwarven lands and stuff. And there's a reason for this. It's because the medieval Catholic Church was a really big deal in society. And if you're going to play in the Middle Ages, you need a big central church. Without it, you're in some other genre. And but our analog, the Church of the Creator, is a little different from the medieval Catholic Church in that we don't have. Well, it's actually kind of like it. It's unlike it in that there is no pope, but it's kind of like it in that prior to the split with Constantinople, there kind of functionally wasn't, because it was still the patriarchates officially. And so we've got essentially archbishops filling that role, where the archbishops as a whole are the leaders of the Church of the Creator. Some of the archbishoprics have been destroyed, and the remaining ones are the leaders. And if you can get the majority of, or all of the remaining ones on board with the holy war you want to call, then they'll call a new crusade.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like it's almost mind blowing how much information you have in a 300-page book. Like it's again. I said in a review, I'm going to say it again. It's so well done, so well put together. Everything's in simple English. Pretty much anyone can understand, as long as you speak English, of course, or can read English at least. But yeah, it's cool. Like again, here you have mass battle stuff, and how you're going to do sections of battles. You got circumstantial bonuses. You can have minuses to that as well, I believe, can't you?
In function, because you're adding to the enemy.
You're adding to the enemy instead of to yourself.
Yeah.
So just and like I talked about, when you're having these sort of big battles or sieges, you can have different points of battle going on if you have more than several groups of players coming along, or if you in one section you then get past like the front gate and you're into like maybe the courtyard.
Right.
You're going to have a little bonus to this section based on what previously happened.
Kinda, yeah. Basically, each of those smaller engagements that the players participate in affect the result of the overall battle.
Yeah.
Now, you could be successful as a party and still lose the battle. That's not.
I talked about that as well.
Yeah, it's not likely, unless, of course, your side started really badly overmatched anyway. In which case, yeah, it is likely that your army of like 100 dudes is going to lose to 9,000. Yeah, so even if you do really well, you might, barely survive as compared to slaughter.
We opened the gate, but we got slaughtered in the courtyard. We were able to break the chains and the drawbridge fell down, but then we died.
Yeah. But for even kind of vaguely equal sides, even, outnumbered 5-1, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you have a whole system for how to do that as well.
Yeah. And we give you a general example and then a more specific one in that box as well.
Yeah.
Of how to do that.
And then again, you also have like nautical adventures. You'd have your maybe like we talked about before, like you have a group of mercenaries and they're a bunch of pirates. Like they could be the bad guys. I think that'd be a cool thing. You'd have more than one group of players playing. Like a West Match style game. One of them are like the bad guys doing all the bad stuff, and the other group is we need to stop this scourge of evil monsters coming around. And maybe they don't know there's people playing like that. That'd be kind of
I
cool.
think you can make it even simpler. I think you could do it
Mm.
as simple as having one group of players in Franconia, one group of players in Mercia, or any of the other human countries,
Mm.
and just having them be slightly nationalist, and they will get conflict.
Okay, that's cool. I like pirates though. But yeah, I like the naming conventions you've done in this. We'll go back to that page, the setting. Mercia. I remember I talked about it in the review I done. The England used to be split up into Mercia, Wessex, and Northumbria, and I couldn't remember Wessex. That was the one I couldn't remember.
Yeah, and
So a lot.
and Anglia or East Anglia sometimes.
Yeah, I think that was
Yeah,
later on. But yeah,
but yeah,
the
Mercia.
Frank. Sorry, go on.
Mercia, yeah, is definitely a throwback to that.
Yeah, that was cool.
Franconia is actually a name of a part of Germany. However, it sounds close enough to France
Mm,
uh, that players just assume it's a French analog. That
mm.
isn't quite correct, but the language, we do use French uh, naming conventions in Franconia. The
Yeah, because
culture is fairly different, but the names do use that kind of language.
I do like how you use the real world to inspire the areas and the cultures, but they're different. They're still different.
Yeah.
So
Brigmar,
it's going to feel similar enough, so you're going to have a kind of understanding of where things are in the world, what they're about, if you know anything about history, and if you don't, you have great explanations for each area and region and country.
thanks. Yeah, Brigmar is analogous to the Holy Roman Empire
Hmm.
in that there are a bunch of powerful lords who don't really get along in a very weak central government. Which isn't to say that the central government, that the king of Brigmar couldn't raise a big army if you annoyed the people of Brigmar enough. It is to say his ability to cling to power and force the nobles under him to do things is limited. Um, whereas uh, Mercia and Franconia have significantly more central authority invested in the monarch. And the city of Ansburg, or Ansburg, the country, has the most central authority because it's missing a whole middle tier of nobility. It's just there's the prince and local lords and knights. That's it. There are no dukes or counts or barons, anything like
Okay,
that. Partly because it's a small nation, and partly because that one there really is centralized control. Whereas the
nice.
king of Mercia has got barons plotting against him. The king of Franconia has at least one count involved in a plot against him. Uh, the elves of Carwin are fighting a losing war currently for survival against a goblin incursion. So on. Yeah.
Cool.
Um,
Yeah, it's again, it has all this stuff laid out here as well about basics of how each country or empire works, and regions within the area or the country. I mean,
yeah. Where we're giving you 3 sample
culture, what they
areas.
export, all that stuff.
Yeah. We're giving you basically a half page of information about the country and then 3 half-page sections of an example location
Hmm.
with NPCs and a quest line to go down. Um, and there's a lot of stuff you can do, especially when you start realizing that many of these little plots interact with other things in the world. That if you take the escort mission to guard this dude's daughter on her way to get married to so and so,
Yeah.
that by doing that, you're gonna you're gonna make friends and enemies. What if you succeed or fail? That may not even be part of that quest. Just when you arrive, and if the marriage goes through, well, now that local lord might like you, and maybe now his enemies hate you, uh, or at least don't like you as very much. Um, or maybe a more direct example: um, if you were to go to the court of the king in Mercia, uh, there are NPCs to interact with, but this includes his advisor, Godric the Grey, the king himself, and the king's champion. And we strongly imply the existence of the king's wizard's daughter or granddaughter. And because it's a source of conflict between him and the king's champion.
Yeah.
Well, the players can interact with this in all different ways, and it could have all kinds of repercussions for them. Could be the king's champion winds up favoring them. Could mean Godric the Grey likes them. It could mean they get the attention of the king himself, maybe get some land. It could mean that one of the players also gets seduced by Godric's granddaughter. And causes their own life problems.
Yeah, it's I just can't get over how well done everything is. It's again, it's 300 pages, but it feels like 600 pages or like 500 pages of actual gaming content, but it's just condensed in a well explained, a well organized and explained layout.
Thank you. Yeah, we're going for we're so for the other game we're working on, its working title is Dropship, the sci-fi game. We're planning to have similar layout in that it should also be a 300-page book. It's going to have some different focuses, of course, because in a medieval fantasy where there's dungeons and ancient ruins and stuff and treasure hoards, magic items are going to be and treasure objects are going to be a bigger focus. Not that there won't be any in Dropship. That's not the main focus.
Yeah.
The main focus is very much the ongoing wars against the aliens. And so a lot of the interesting items you can find are on a specific, like abandoned worlds or that you can take from the enemy. Whereas here, you can find relics of lost civilizations pretty regularly in Horde Wars based on where you're adventuring and if you don't die horribly. You get more treasure for defeating dragons and for clearing mega dungeons. But you can get some for completing any adventure. Now, one mistake I did notice some of our new customers make is we say when they complete an adventure, that does not mean a single fight. So if your players fight some highway bandits, they should not be rolling for treasure. You might find a couple items in the bandits' camp, but the reality is if the bandits are waylaying them, the bandits don't have anything.
Yeah, they might find a few marks or something like that.
Yeah. If they did, they'd be off spending it.
Yeah, they spend it on tavern wenches and drink.
Yeah.
And also, I think that's hilarious how one of the careers is a tavern wench. That'd be an assassin tavern wench.
Well,
it's a good way to get that's a good way to assassinate a lord.
You.
Yeah, good way to assassinate a lord.
Just come this way and die.
Yeah. But the treasure as well. We talked about beforehand about having the players themselves roll up the treasure. So
definitely.
So again, if they do that and they roll bad or they roll great, well, that's on them, and they can't complain. Well, you don't like me because I said something mean. Well, no, you roll the dice, so.
Well, it's also, I think, vital, especially if you've never played together before. If you are brand new to playing RPGs, or if you are brand new to a group, it's vital for the game master to be able to build trust with the players, because the reality is many game masters have a habit of lying. They might not want to think about it that way, but when you roll behind a DM screen, or when you hide your dice rolls, or when you not as a character but as the game master lie to the players in other ways, this is not a good thing and does not help with game enjoyment, no matter what you think. You aren't you, and neither am I. You're not smarter than your players. Not really. You might be smarter than an individual one on an individual topic, sure. But in general, they're smarter than you. They're collective intelligence. If you keep lying to them, they will notice. And generally speaking, people don't like being lied to and will disengage from gameplay. Whereas
Yeah.
if they know that when you roll the dice in front of them, and if you roll a natural 12, their character may die because you just critted on them, and there is no safety net, those players are way more engaged in the combat, in the story, and in their characters. And a lot of people may not want to hear that, but that is reality. And if you don't believe me, try it. If you're a game master out there and you're checking out this video and you're like, yeah, I fudge dice rolls all the time. No, you don't. You lie. You're lying to your players. That's what you're doing. Try not doing that. Just that. You don't even have to switch games. Try just rolling in the open and seeing how it changes the way the players behave. Now, if you do that in something like Horde Wars, where each dice roll can be very impactful, it's going to push that even further. The same is true for narrative options. If there's like a plot that you don't know about because it's something the players decided to dash off on, don't lie and pretend you totally knew they were going to do that. Actually, instead, go, okay, well, here are the 3 possibilities for what's going to happen since you've run down this rabbit hole and it's not something I got ready. 25% chance of this, 25% chance of that, 50% chance of that. And then you look at the player, ideally who caused the situation, and have them roll. Announce it openly. That player is going to be way more engaged because you're being honest with them, but also they'll almost always have an outcome they want to be true. They'll roll. You'll see what the outcome is, like on a D4, for example.
Yeah.
And then that becomes what is in fact true in the game world. At the time it becomes pertinent. If you've never tried this kind of thing before, and I explain it better and at a bit of length, maybe a half page or so in our Game Master chapter, this drives player engagement and excitement. You will see in person a play group all sit up and be interested in how this is going to go. You went past it, but that's all right. Keep going up. Keep going up. There's an example, and there's another example.
Yeah.
So it's emergent plots.
Yeah, I was going to say that's actually in the rule book as you were explaining it, but I didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Well, give one of the examples a read if you wouldn't mind, so that your audience can get what we're talking about.
So the local lord. So let's say the player learned that the local lord is sneaking off into an inn late at night. You decide the following possibilities, explain why he is sneaking off, and announce them to the group. The one player rolls 1d4 to determine which is true. On a 1 or 2, the local lord is meeting with his lover. On a 3, the local lord is part of a secret cult. And on a 4, the local lord is hiring an assassin. The same method could be used to determine who the lover is, what the secret cult wants, or who the assassin is targeting. These rolls should be made when that information becomes relevant. Yeah.
Does that make sense? Just as an example of how to.
Oh yeah. I think it's make perfect sense. Sense. English gone out of my head there. But yeah, it makes sense. It's pretty simple. How you can do it, and again, if you can decide what one of the possibilities that the player really messes up something, if they're trying to mess with you, you can be like, well, maybe one of the possibilities is not so great for you.
Well, right, but you're up front, and they're the one rolling it.
Yeah.
It gives the player, I think, more feeling of control, but also with believability of the world that they're participating in discovering the story with you. And you, as the game master, actually get to be surprised because you don't know what the outcome will be. You know what the possibilities are, but you don't know how the dice roll will go either. And that is actually quite fun if you've never tried it before. I wish I had learned it younger when I was running games, but that methodology.
And it's something you can easily plug into any game. It's like
Yes,
it's just a D4 and a 1 or 2. This is the most likely, and a 3 and a 3, and then a 4. This is the other options. So it's
exactly.
not complicated. You can
Yeah.
write something out in a few minutes while your players are just chatting among themselves or something. If you're
You don't even
something,
have to write it. Just say it out
yeah,
loud.
that's
Because
true.
here's the thing. That number is specific. 3 or 4 on a D4 possibilities. 3 or 4 possibilities. The reason is because in real life, you can quickly remember about 3 to 5 of a given thing. It's not that you can't memorize really long things. It's just easier for human minds to remember it. It's why phone numbers are broken up the way that they are. Or for in the US, social security numbers. Those dashes in there or spaces are actually to help you memorize it.
And they're put into blocks of 3 and 4 usually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the same is true here. If you pick it 3 or 4 possibilities and are rolling on a D4, everyone at the table, assuming they don't have some kind of disability, and assuming they were paying attention, is going to know what every option is and what the dice roll means. If you make it 6 things on a D6 or 8 things on a D8, they're not going to remember, and neither are you, actually, unless you have like a chart.
Yeah.
If you keep it simple, keep it to 3 or 4 possibilities, announce it, and then have the player roll, that will work so that your whole play group understands the stakes and knows what's going on. And so the number actually is important.
Okay. Now, I didn't know that about the phone number thing, by the way. Now I do. I'm now more intelligent for it. I'm slightly less dumber than I was 2 minutes ago.
Well, this is something that Nate and I learned in game development, because we actually, it's not that we didn't know that idea before, it's that we got to experience it practically, where we gave players like a list of things as compared to just a smaller list or broken up into segments, where you'd have 3 here, 4 here, 3 there, instead of maybe a list of 10. And breaking it up that way really does help. The players remember information just offhand in a way they won't if it's just a list.
Yeah, that's makes sense. I want to talk about artifacts a little bit, because you
Sure.
do have a thing in this. If you want to level things up a bit quicker, is when you discover and find artifacts. So if you want your
To be
game,
clear, that is a replacement. That's not meant to level up quicker. That's saying you get no XP unless you trade.
Oh, okay. I misread that. Then that's my own fault. Okay, never mind. I was going to say something else about that, but okay.
And so you are right in that will help you level up quicker. That is often the outcome, but it is a replacement, and the players have to choose to give up artifacts for XP. Otherwise, they just get half of the XP than they would if they turned it into their patron.
Okay, yeah, I got that wrong.
No,
well, yeah, so it can speed things up a bit faster then maybe.
So that can happen, but it's kind of a boom bust situation where you'll maybe clear a dungeon, find no artifacts, and get no XP if you choose the variant XP. And the next session, you get like 8 artifacts, or no, you get maybe 4 artifacts, and then you are like, we're going to turn all of these in, and then you all get 8 XP. Like it's I don't know if it's the best way to play, but it's kind of our homage to treasure or gold as XP, and also our players really liked it as an option. They didn't want to do it all the time, but they thought it was really fun when playing like a group of dungeon delvers.
Okay,
they
yeah. So they're like tomb robbers and stuff.
Yeah,
essentially.
That for that kind of game, that they like that kind of XP for that. They did not care for it as much when it was like becoming a local lord or going on like going raiding on a sailing ship or that sort of thing.
So yeah, the artifacts, they're kind of essentially magic items or weapons or special things you can come across.
No, there's a reason we didn't use the word magic in there. And one, because we have some things that most of the artifacts do not use the magic keyword, and that does matter for certain interactions in the game world. like a counterspell or a disenchant can mess with magic.
Okay.
And most of the artifacts, none of the artifacts are themselves inherently magic. They're just artifacts. Some of them have magic abilities you can activate, in which case a counterspell or a disenchant could turn off that ability, but it wouldn't destroy the item. And we wanted to help make it really clear, as much as we could, what a counterspell or a disenchant would mess with.
Okay. So that was more for gameplay experience.
Yeah.
So to make sure, like, well, I'm going to target your items. It's like, okay, no.
Yeah.
So in a sense, a lot of them do function as magic items without them being directly magic items.
Right. So, for
And some of
example,
them are directly magic items, of course.
well, kind of. Take a look at that.
Okay.
Don't move. You're zipping around now. Go to the where you just were. You had a book of blue wizardry, I think. Yep, and you went past it again.
Yeah, I'm half blind.
It's all right.
Oh, yeah.
You see it?
Yep.
Book of blue wizardry. So the book itself is an artifact, but if you look, it has a magic power. You want to read what that says?
Yep, the rune marked action. Illusion magic two per day. You place a magic rune no bigger than one combat space on an adjacent object. The rune glows faintly in the dark, illuminating adjacent combat spaces for the next 8 hours before it fades and vanishes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a simple magical effect
Mm-hmm.
and spell. But it can be counterspelled, it can be disenchanted, but none of those things will destroy the book that later on can be used to use this ability again.
Okay.
You'd have to like physically light the book on fire or something.
Yeah. Or chop it up or something.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah, I just want to make sure on that. But yeah, like you have the charts for rolling stuff out as well. You obviously give an example of a good list of items you could give your players. They came across it if you didn't want to roll something up for like an artifact weapon or something like that.
Well, sure. I mean, the artifact weapons are supposed to be generated that way, and then the general artifacts are there's like 120, 140, something like that.
Yeah.
120 plus anyway. General artifacts that we've written, and the way we did you catch how we built in rarity?
Sorry.
So the idea of something is more rare than something else.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Did you catch how we built in rarity in that chart?
Let me go back to it. General.
Yeah, the general artifacts.
Yeah.
So you're rolling a d20 and a d6, right?
Yeah.
The d6 to determine the column, a d20 to determine the row. Now, if you roll a 20, you're rolling.
Oh yeah, roll the table below. Yeah.
Yeah. So all the items at the bottom have a 0.8% chance of finding it if you're in that column, whereas all the items above have a 5% chance of finding them.
Okay.
And so essentially everything in that bottom set is the really rare stuff, the stuff that's really hard to find.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know how I missed that. I'm half blind. Maybe we should get new glasses
here
or something.
On that next table, or that next portion of the table. And so that's reflected also in the prices. And sometimes the power level as well. Like some of those rare items are very powerful. Like one of the items lets you lets you cancel an action and reverse the turn order.
Okay. So then you could end up doing your turn again. And then
and it goes in reverse around the table. So you could potentially, if you were in the right seat, have your entire party act again before the enemy.
Nice. Make sure you're always the last player if you have that spell or ability or artifact. I'm always going last no matter what. Okay.
And we've got really powerful, cool magic items that we spent we spent some time looking at other role-playing games, reading mythology,
Mm.
and thinking about what did we enjoy? What was some of the coolest stuff we ever saw playing over the years? Um, and so you get anything from cursed items that are technically still useful in some way, to just crazy powerful things like a magic lamp with wishes in it, right?
So that'll function kind of like a wish spell in a sense, but you get in a magic
Yeah.
lamp. Okay.
Yep. And it defines what the limitations are. It's
Yeah.
very powerful, though.
And be
Uh,
very careful with your wording.
yes, that would be wise.
I
Don't
want
want
lots
to
of
wish
gold.
for don't want to wish for wealth without wishing where it came from and where it's
Yeah,
going to
that's why I
appear.
said a wish for gold. You might end up with one coin, or you might end up with a dragon's treasure trove, and it comes after you.
Or it might just fall on you from the sky,
Exactly. Yeah. Those magic wishing lamps are very tricky.
They can be. They can be. We define the limits, and I'm pretty comfortable if it's not too cursed. But we have something like the miser's belt pouch. What it does is it is a normal belt pouch that gives you a +2 equipment bonus on commerce. So you can be really good at bribing and at negotiating prices with it, which
Hmm.
is nice. Well, also, it prevents anyone from taking more than one coin out of that belt pouch at a time,
Okay.
including
I
you.
seriously see. Okay.
But that also means, so would that be annoying for you? Oh, absolutely. If you're making a big purchase, it just looks ridiculous as you take one coin out at a time. However, it also means that you basically can't be pickpocketed because that pickpocket is going to have to stay next to you for the next 5 minutes, slowly emptying your belt pouch.
Or 5 hours.
Yeah.
Or like it's like one, two. Oh, for God's sake! You're asleep, and your local inn, and the thief comes in and starts trying to rob you. I was like, this is not worth the job.
Yep. And so
Uh,
it's a pretty fun item, but that's one of the examples of a cursed item.
mm. So
We got
yeah.
another one called the figurine of the crone. And basically, it is a haste effect that is really powerful, but you age a year every time you use it.
Oh no.
Now, for a human, this is a bad thing, but in our world, elves don't die of old age.
Okay,
So if
let's
you're an
spam
elf,
that.
yeah,
Spam it.
if you're an elf, it's great. And if you're a dwarf, you got a long lifespan. What's a decade?
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? I think what dwarfs is like 200 years in this or something, is it? Or more? 500?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 200 plus. So
Yeah. So
it's fine.
it's like 250 for a well-aged dwarf.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Um, and we got, ring of invisibility there. All different stuff, man. We
mm,
we we really, like I said, this is a labor of love, but also it is years of game development and active play testing. And so, while we are not a very expensive high end game company, we are delivering a quality product in terms of the design. Also, there's like 100 pieces, a little over 100 pieces of unique artwork in here. I think our artists all did a really good job. And this book alone should allow you to play with your friends for the next 30 years without ever having to buy another book from us.
yeah.
Now, we'd love it if you did, if your friends like it and they buy books, or if you decide to buy one of our other games, right? That's our business model, though, is really making more games. And if people like one and then they buy more, we're able to stay in business and they're able to get games to enjoy with their friends. We are taking very much the opposite approach to like Wizards of the Coast or Paizo, who are essentially trying to farm their customers for money.
Yeah.
Where they're like, and buy this splat book and this one and this one and this one. And without it, you'll miss all the best rules and the newest cool stuff for your character.
Yeah,
That's
like several books of just random extra classes and
yeah.
equipment and stuff like that. Like
It's
how
basically
many
TLC.
books does Pazzo have of just for Pathfinder of that? You know, it's insane.
It
Like, I
is.
remember years ago we used to play a bit of Pathfinder for 1E when it was supposed to only be the one edition ever, and we looked at it. It was like every few months there was like more and more and more books, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?"
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's kind of crazy.
that's expensive. I mean, on
Oh
our
yeah, like
end, I think we probably my play group at one time owned something like, I don't know, 50 different books for D&D 3.5.
oh my god,
Well, those
yeah,
were all 30 to 50 bucks a
yeah,
piece, right? Well, I
and
don't
that
have
was
those
back in
anymore.
the what 2000s, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so
And so that was expensive. That was
oh
hours
yeah,
and hours of labor. Certainly if you were like in high school or something.
yeah,
And yeah, so we don't want that model. We actually want you to be able to buy one book from us and be done, or maybe two, if you want one to game master with, and maybe one for your friends to look at
yeah,
and make their characters with and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah. I
think
was
it's
gonna
better for
say,
the customer.
yeah, it's more friendly, and like I think when you have stuff like that, it makes people want to come back as well. So they don't feel like they have to get this thing or else they're missing out. You know,
Yeah.
that's one thing that happens with people. Like, you have limited resources and time, so you got to pick and choose. And if something's constantly coming out every other month or every month in some cases, people, you can get burned out real quick on just buying and spending.
And the
But
reality is, even the biggest companies, when they do that,
yeah, they're not
they're
making money
churning out
sometimes.
shit. They're
Yeah, and they're
turning
not
out
making money
bad
even
product.
sometimes.
They
Yeah.
they haven't tested it or haven't thought it through with their system in
Oh yeah.
provable ways. Things like using the exact same name to mean something entirely different in the game repeatedly across multiple splat books show
Hmm.
that there was a lack of central planning and forethought put into these. Or when there's a game-breaking combination in the exact same splat book. I had one that Nate and I figured out, I think, that for one of the for D&D 3.5, that essentially you could make a barbarian who, as soon as he took damage, and it could be self-inflicted, he could like stab himself and cause it to happen. As soon as he took damage, if it didn't kill him, would not die to hit point loss by like level 3.
Oh wow. That's
Which
so
is
God mode.
that is some dumb stuff. Like, and that was in all the components were in a single book. So it's not like they just forgot about something else that could
Yeah.
interact with
It
it.
wasn't like it was 3 years later and a different book put
No,
out by someone who wasn't working on the core rules and kind of forgot about it.
no. It was
Wow,
just
that's
like,
insane.
it's like clearly you guys haven't thought this through or play
Yeah.
tested this well at all, or you would have caught it. So anyway, that kind of thing is I think a warning sign. So for us, right, we're mostly wanting to make games. Now we may at some point make some kind of module or something, but from a business end, that's actually a bad idea. It's
Yeah.
only if we got to the point where, let's say, we had 1,000 active game masters, not just we sold 1,000 books. I mean, that's great. That would be great, right? But we have 1,000 active game masters who are playing. Then maybe it becomes cost effective to offer a module, something you don't need to play the game. It has no new core rules, no new careers. It's just, here are cool monsters, or here's a new dragon, or that kind of thing. And here are new magic items that you could find that are unique to this dungeon or unique to this adventure. That kind of thing, I think, can be good. But to make it cost effective, you got to have, I think, at least 1,000 active game masters, because let's then say 10% of those want to buy the new book.
Yeah, that's $100 or so.
That's only 100 books. So
Yeah.
if it costs $5,000 to make that book, that means I got to charge $50 just to break even if we have 100 people buying it. And that would be kind of high for an adventure. So we want even more active game masters, because I think a realistic amount for those sorts of things is maybe 10% of your active game masters are going to want to buy a module, because they're useless for anything other than running the module or like mining it for parts.
Yeah. That was actually one thing I was going to ask you. about are you gonna? Have you considered doing module stuff? But you kind of talked about it there, so
Yeah, we have.
maybe eventually.
Yeah, maybe eventually.
Mm,
But again, that would not be adding content to the core game. That would
yeah,
be expanding the setting, expanding some monsters or some treasure you could
yeah,
find, but not how your character operates in the game world.
okay,
And the same is true for um, third party content. Like if people want to make third party content for our game, we are open to that. We do reserve our copyright, however, so you do have to talk with us. There is no free license, and that is something we would do in a more open license if we were if we ever become a larger company. If we're ever at the point where one or both of us are doing this full time, or where we're selling hundreds of books every month reliably.
yeah,
If that's the case, then we would probably do a more open gaming license, because then that's good for us. But right now, when we're very small, I think it's actually not good for us, because someone could go check out this awesome Horde Wars adventure I made, and it's actually crap, and that could be the first time you ever hear of Horde Wars, and that just
yeah.
kills that potential customer.
Yeah, it's a tricky balance of trying to figure out how to do things. And like you said, you're only a small company. You're basically two guys at it.
Yeah, yeah,
Part time in your own time when you're able to go, when you're able to
exactly.
do it. And this took several years to make
It
as
did.
well. What I think you said was like 8-10 years of work on and off.
About 5 years.
5 years. That's it. I
Yeah.
doubled it. But
About
yeah.
5 years. And it would have taken 3, I think, if I hadn't gotten my leg crushed. That took me out of commission for about a year.
Oh wow, what
And
happened there?
some scaffolding fell down on top of me and
Jesus.
crushed my leg. And so I still don't walk well, but I can walk again. Thank God. Because the first surgeon who looked at it went, well, if I do the surgery, you're never walking again.
Oh wow.
So it's also
Yeah.
probably good I didn't have him do the surgery.
At least
But
he was honest.
yeah,
But
yeah, I
it's
appreciate his honesty.
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but that was a thing. And then also I had a very bad case of COVID. I'm a overweight dude,
Mhm.
not like insanely so, but more than I'd prefer. However, when I caught COVID, I lost 35 pounds in about 1 week,
Oh
and
wow.
coughed up blood that whole
Jeez.
time. Uh,
That's
Not so fun. And then
yeah.
I was in the hospital for a week or two, and then I was on oxygen at home for 2 or 3 months uh, before I even started recovering, really.
Yeah.
So that also ate up a bunch of time that I might have been able to, I would have been able to work on the game. So that was a good year and a half lost.
Yeah.
Plus, with all the like quarantine and stay at home shenanigans that governments around the world were into,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
that
Jesus Christ.
that meant that we couldn't play test even when we were able to for like a good half a year or more.
Yeah. So
So
then
if
any
those
refinements
things,
took longer to do.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
think if we were to do that again, start a game from scratch in a similar, without those interruptions, it'd probably take us about 3 years.
Okay. Yeah. Jeez. Well, I hope you will get better and better.
Well,
So
thanks.
that's yeah. It's your health is the most important thing in life. So
Yeah. Well, it's
health,
shot
the
now.
health
So.
goes above books, in my opinion. You know.
Well, like I said, it's shot now.
Mhm.
I'm likely to not ever be as healthy as I was,
Yeah.
and that's okay. That is simply, it was good for me spiritually, I think, actually,
Yeah.
and certainly helped me slow down and think about what I was doing. Um, so that's good in that way,
Yeah.
even if
Um.
physically quite unpleasant.
Yeah. You kind of reflect on things and sort of like, okay, this is what's important. This is what I need to focus on more on, and you you sort of realize what's important in life, I guess.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is you talked about the artwork, and I really like the artwork in this. The
Thank you.
style is great. It's not cartoony, but it's colorful. It's um interesting, and they're like little vignettes throughout the book. And there's like
Yeah.
I think there's 2 or 3 sort of big 1-page spreads, and they look great.
Thank you. We had 7 artists on this project. The previous book we had 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the art style is also pretty unified as well. So
Yeah.
you're
I
all
think
on the
it
same
came out well.
page. Zombie Crusaders. I love Crusaders.
Yeah. No,
But,
they that one a tattoo artist named Jesse Haglund did.
nice. That's pretty cool.
And the zombie before that, Simeon Cochran.
Oh yeah, normal zombie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And,
But one last thing I think is the adventure that's in this book.
Yeah.
Like I said before, it's an introductory adventure. It shows the players how to play the game, basically.
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, in
Mhm.
recommending that you give that a try with your friends in person, it helps introduce game concepts as you go.
Mm-hmm.
It may not feel that way as you're playing, but that's what's happening, both to the game master and to the players. It introduces traps, it introduces treasure, it introduces using timers. It it also has it also introduces basic combat. You start out in a pretty simple fight with a dozen goblins against the party.
Yeah.
And this is meant for 4 to 6 adventurers. You could be outnumbered 3 to 1, no problem, in the very first fight. And that's deliberate. And I don't think I've ever seen a party lose that initial fight. I have seen a couple parties lose or get a draw in the adventure, but I've run it like 75 times or something silly. And I have never seen the exact same outcome.
That's good.
Which has been great.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I like you've play tested it a hell of a lot, clearly.
Well, not just that, I run it at conventions. I mean,
Mm.
other people do too. So, for example, Nate and I are scheduled to be at Nova Open in Washington, D.C. I think it's Labor Day weekend. It's in late August, early September. For those of you on the East Coast of the U.S. or who feel the urge to fly into Washington, D.C., you are welcome to get tickets to Nova Open, pick up tickets for our games, come play with us. We got like 30 spots open right now. That's a ways out yet. But we've also got North Texas RPG Con. Nate and I are scheduled to be there with our friend Steve. We got a booth there. We're also running, I think, 9 or 10 games that weekend. And those are close to full. There's maybe 12 or 15 total spots open in those games. And the tickets for the event itself are sold out to go to that convention. But if you show up at the door, you can buy tickets day of. And that's in Dallas, Texas. And we do other conventions as we're able to. We got invited to a couple of other ones that we're going to try to make happen. Haven't committed to those yet. And then we also do some private conventions as well. Just did 2 of those in the last month.
You are very busy men. Clearly. Yeah, and you have the games on your guild server as well.
We do.
So
Yeah.
like I said, you're very busy. But yeah, like in this adventure, like you said, it shows you the idea of you could break down doors, stuff like that, how to get through things. Do you have traps? Like you
It
said,
also
you have
shows the
treasure.
ambushes.
Yeah, it goes through everything, and it also introduces the quest for new DMs on how you could play things.
Yeah, it's showing you how an adventure would be run.
Yeah.
Whereas in the town of Grimstead, where you've got each of those buildings introduce a quest, as well as some NPCs and you can buy cool stuff there and so on. But there's also quests. That's the amount of prep you should be doing as a game master.
Mm-hmm.
Just that for a given quest.
Yeah, like
That's
here
not
has.
to say,
Have you seen my son?
Yeah. Have you seen your son? And the stuff under that. That's all you need to know. to run an adventure. Very small amount of information, and we're trying to model for you how that information becomes that more written out 2-page adventure.
Yeah.
And how to prep. Like a little town, you only need like 4 buildings. It's not that there aren't other buildings, but you need to go, okay, what are the core businesses or places of worship or this kind of thing in this town? And in this case, you've got a smithy, a potion maker, an inn, and a chapel. And these are the important businesses in the town. It could be different ones, but you want stuff that your players are going to interact with. And then these key buildings can be a place to introduce NPCs, help them learn about the area, and also introduce quests. You don't need to prep all 100 peasant hovels or whatever it might be. That's...
you can just imply there is other places around.
Or just say it in like a sentence.
As you're walking around, you go past, a dozen different houses over here and over there. Yeah, stuff like that. You don't need to draw out, like spend 20 hours drawing a map that people are going to look at once, like, oh, cool, I want to go to this place.
Yeah, well, I think it's worth saying though, because you've been playing RPGs for a while. I have, but if someone is newer, a lot of times they wildly overimagine the amount of work needed.
Yeah, and I have to say, sometimes if they're looking at some YouTube stuff, they're going to be overwhelmed by some of the advice that's given, I find. Like they think it requires ungodly amount of time and effort to prepare for a game. Like you hear people talk about, I prepare for my 3-hour game by 8 hours of prep. It's like, what the hell are you talking about?
No, I could prepare an entire campaign world with that amount of prep.
Yeah,
it's certainly in a medieval one, or at least a few nations. Maybe not the whole planet, but like this region of the world.
Yeah, like it becomes almost like a part-time job preparing for a single game. You're like, what? How do you have that time? But and this is like the local area map as well for this area. And actually, I'll show it on for everyone at home.
Oh, it's worth mentioning with that map. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it takes place around here.
Yeah. And it's worth mentioning with the area map as well. There are deliberate scaling errors. Our artist for this map wanted to make it like a medieval map where it is not perfectly accurate. Like the directions are correct, which way stuff is, but how far away stuff isn't quite right. And that was a deliberate choice. The correct distances are listed throughout the adventures. You can look them up. It's no problem. But this is meant to be a map to show the players that is broadly correct, but may be missing a key detail or two.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, it reminds me of old maps, but just more color.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And like you have the lakes down here, you have the main pass that goes down through the mountains, down into the southern lands where the lizard men are. I say lizard men, but they're dragons. Dragon Knights?
Dracarans.
Oh, there's too many games in my head. But yeah, you've like the silver mines, there's a location. I think that's where the mega dungeon takes place.
No,
it's over here.
Yeah. That's Caverns of Abaddon. The silver mines is the quest. Have you seen my son? Because Balfour's son has gone off to try to reopen the old abandoned mine.
Yeah, that's why I got mixed up, because that's where the zombies and other creatures are in there. Yeah, I just read that a few minutes ago as we were talking about the quests. So you have that in there, the mega dungeon. Yeah, so there's lots of places here. Then you have the Rune Keep. That can be a goal for some of your players as well.
Oh yeah,
and they can potentially become a minor lord for the area.
I know Matt from Blackwall Games. He has along with Nick successfully cleared that keep, and if they're any, I don't know if they're gaming with anyone else in that group, but they're game master, and he have mentioned it to me, and so that character is about to become, or is now, the Lord of Grimstead in their campaign, which is great.
Oh, that's cool. It's always cool to hear stories about like the games and how everyone's going to do it a little different, or even dramatically different.
Yeah, like he mentioned that their game master chose to add a mega dungeon in the silver mine. I'm not opposed to that. it's not what we wrote. But if they did like the introductory adventure and they're like, well, there must be more down here, I mean, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
You can always add more to a game.
Yeah. I mean, that's
if
the intent here.
Especially if the players are. Sorry, go
ahead.
Especially if the players are loving one area in particular. Okay, just add a little more here.
Well, and it's meant to give you a framework of how to do things.
Yeah,
like
because
we have.
Sorry, go on.
We have, for example, 4 traveling merchants.
Yeah.
In examples, nothing stops you from adding some more traveling merchants. We've got sample ruins around. You could put more ruins, like especially further out, deeper into the woods. Do it. Have a blast. We have, I think, 17 different quests for you to do in the Witchwood area, but you could certainly make it more. You could play a whole little campaign in that area. And then we've got another 24 quests and adventures in the setting chapter. So you could, with no prep at all, potentially, if your players just bite on plot after plot after plot, you could have, even if you finished one a session, which I don't think is realistic. Some are meant to take a little longer, some are meant to be shorter. But if you finished maybe one a session and you played every week, you could get about 3/4 of a year of gaming just off the material we've given you, if you wanted to.
Yeah, like this area map as well. It's not a small area.
No.
Because when you look on the world map, it's huge. And this is like a small section within that world map. Just because it's a small section within that world map does not mean it's a small area for the players to explore.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think that's more or less everything I had in terms of questions.
Sure.
Is there anything else you want to add in?
Well, we could maybe chat a little bit afterwards, but overall, I'm glad we got to do this. And I hope that you convince many of your countrymen to try our game now that we are selling in Ireland.
Hopefully I'll get a few on at least.
And thank you for testing out shipping.
Oh yeah. It was my pleasure to have a physical copy of an excellent game,
And
thank you for that as well. Again.
Yeah, you're welcome. And the other thing is, I think I mentioned at the beginning, but if I forgot, today is when shipping to Ireland went live on our website for our hardcover. Our softcover is going to be US only because of the nature of how that's manufactured.
Yeah, that's excellent. Is this also going to be available throughout the rest of the EU, or?
I have a guy in the Netherlands testing that now.
Okay, cool. That's good. Obviously I'm going to leave in the description and in the comment section. I have it pinned where you can find your website, links to your books, and to your social media as well, of course.
Oh, sure, that'd be great. You have those links?
Oh yeah, I'm going to plug it in after this goes live.
Okay, perfect.
So yeah, I think that's it, guys. So thanks again for watching. So remember to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think, and if you have any questions for myself or sorry, I need my drink.
If you have any other questions, reply in the comments.
Yes, you see, he's now going to be taking over my channel. So if you have any questions, leave it in the comments, and we'll get back to you at some stage. That's it, guys. I'll see you all again later. Goodbye.
Have a good night.